Hi everyone, welcome back to Safe Space. My name is Buse,
My name is Valentina.
and today, Valen or Valentina, however you want me to.
Well, you're my friend. You can call me Val.
Okay, I can refer to you as Valen. Thank you. So today, Valen suggested that we talk about women and our impact in society, religion, culture, and the world. And I think there's, like you said before, I think it's a very broad topic. So obviously there's a lot to unpack in terms of how we play our roles in the world as women and like how that impacts us and other people around us. Do you want to start with any specific idea? Anything that you can think of?
Well, I just feel like overall, I feel like we're very restrained. Depending where you were born in the world, your life can look like completely different if you're a woman. In some cultures, if you even give birth to a female, it's a disgrace. Females are dumped into dumpsters because they were not what they were expecting. And so from there, you can just take it like so far and so broad, because in every single field, I feel like women are always much more limited, much more tested, much more, questionable. So, yeah, whatever you want to touch base, I can dive in.
Yeah, and I think sometimes I try to reflect on like things that I have experienced and things that I hear from other people, not just women, but like how they think like women play a part in their lives. And like you mentioned also with other cultures, there are sometimes people that don't, I guess, acknowledge the importance of women in the world, in their culture, in their life. But ultimately we are, I guess, we give birth to life, right? Like we give birth to, we continue like generations after generations.
Correct,
and we have
a huge role.
Yeah.
We have a huge role.
We are mothers for those who want to be parents, even for those that are not, like, mothers with, they don't give birth to their own biological children. We still take up like motherly roles a lot of times. Like I know I do, even though I don't have any kids. So there's a lot of impact that we have in the world. And I think it's important to recognize that. And I think a lot of cultures, like you said, sometimes they don't recognize that and they don't respect that feminine energy and that feminine role that we play in the world. And I feel like I've been watching a lot of podcasts and like hearing a lot of people talk about it too. We have like as I guess females, we mostly have like this subtle like persuasive energy. Like we're not aggressive like men. I guess I'm not stereotyping, but I'm just saying like that's just the general, I guess let's just say stereotype that people have. Like men are supposed to be more aggressive, even though not necessarily true. Women are supposed to be more like subtle and like more
go with the flow.
Yeah, like understanding.
Smile.
Yeah, and just like endure.
Not question.
Right, and I think that can be good in some ways, but I can also see like the bad impact that it has on the future generations, because if you don't give people, no matter who it is, regardless of gender, but also specifically women, if you don't give people the power to speak up or talk about their own experiences, everyone has a different understanding of different, or perceptions of different experiences. And I think it's important to like give that role, give that stand to speak on for women specifically. But if you want to keep talking or just add on to it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is just a thought that just occurred to me a few days ago, how I honestly feel that women's mental health should be taken care of so much better, because like you say, we give birth and usually we raise those kids, we nurture them, and we do all of these things for them, and also the role that we play. I feel like you can look a lot of his studies and data showing that there's like a lot of single moms out there, and
true.
a lot of you know, just like the father is not near the play, like it's not nowhere to be found, or if it's there, it's not the best role model for the kids to have. So I feel like we should be taken care of also in that way, because if we are not mentally stable, if we're not emotionally stable, if we're not you know, financially stable also comes into play, because it can mess up with your emotional stability. But if we're not okay, how are we supposed to raise functional kids into society? How are we supposed to you know, give out all of this caring and love and tools and knowledge to these kids that are going to be our tomorrow society and culture, you know? So why are we, you know, put in or like dump it into the world? Just like kids that are not properly raised, and so they develop this personality disorders, and they're unable to function properly, because I wasn't ready, I wasn't prepared, I wasn't taught, I wasn't shown, I wasn't taken care of in the first place. So I think, like you mentioned, we are, and I genuinely believe it, that we are the center of the culture, and we run, you know, we make the world go around. Because if you know, we actually are dealing with low fertility rates nowadays, is because we're realizing these things, you know. And I'm not gonna go into the topic of overpopulation and stuff, but that definitely is, it's showing us that we're making ourselves more self-aware and realizing that our role is much more important, and it starts with me, and it can end with me. The bad behaviors and the cycles of, you know, just not functional people.
And I think you touch up on a lot of good points, and I was just like listening and nodding, because it's so true. There are, like, I won't go too much into it, but like my own experiences with my mom, like, hasn't, I don't know, it's been rocky, and it's obviously, I was telling you earlier too, it's very unclear as to like where we are, how things will be in the future, and like kind of trying to understand like what her impact was on me. I'm sure like maybe you can relate, and not totally, but like obviously every mother has an impact on their children. And I was actually watching a video of Jeanette McCurdy, I think, you know, iCarly, the TV show, the blonde girl that used to play in the show. She pretty much wrote a book about how her, how she was, I don't remember the exact title of the book, but it was like how she was glad that her mother pretty much died because of how abusive she was. And
wow, that's tough.
It's heavy. And she was in the interviews that she was doing, she was talking about how heavy it was, and like people obviously don't like hearing that like mothers, like it's important the role that they play in our lives, and like in the roles that we play as women in our own children or in the next generations to come in their lives. And like you touched up on mental health too, and I think that's a big part of it. A lot of people like grow up in like very abusive homes, or especially women, because like you say, there's either, in a lot of cultures they have a lot less power, not just power in terms of like just have a say in the house, but also like financially. And a lot of times like you'll hear that women do get paid less, and there's a lot of factors that
still do
as to why maybe, but you know, in a lot of cultures there's a lot of women that don't work, you know, that don't have the opportunity to go to school or even improve their mental health. They don't have the,
they do, you know, even if they do go to school, they do all of these things, and when they find a partner and they have kids, then she still goes to work, she still has to take care of the kids, she still has to cook, she still has to clean, she still has to do all of these things. And once self-care time, when it's like I need to meditate, I need to reflect, I yell at my kid and I didn't even realize that I was doing this or that or that. Like if you don't have those times a day to think about how your day went, what you're grateful for, what do you want to change, what did I do wrong, what could I have done better. Not necessarily that you have to do wrong, but to improve, because I felt like ultimately that is one of my goals in life, to just always keep on growing. And you know, like if I did something wrong and if I didn't get the outcome I wanted, then like improve. But I felt like women have to fill this role and they have to do these things, and we're like literally put up in a box. And I feel it can come across different cultures and countries. Like women are supposed to do this and that, and when they don't, then she's off, or she's not fulfilled, or she's not right. I felt like a lot of people are awakening from that, you know, and like realizing that we are meant to, you know, do a lot of great things, and not on top of that get the recognition for it, because we've been doing great things since forever, but it's not like we can actually step up and be like, you know, it was actually me.
And I want to ask a question in terms of, like you said, obviously women take care of a lot of things in the home, especially if they have kids, especially if they're married, and you know, whether they are married or not, they still have to take care of the home to an extent. And so in your perspective, you also mentioned like self-care is important. Would you, I guess, could you give any suggestions or kind of unpack that maybe as to like how women can take care of themselves more, how they can
I can share
more.
what I do. So I definitely take time for myself. Like I need to go for a walk, or go for a ride, or go to the beach. Now I love summertime. I love sunny days, obviously. But with my doggy, like it can be snowing or raining or sunny. Like I have to go out. And so he's a great part of that. But definitely that, taking care of myself physically, like I was telling you early. I don't, like, I know it might sound as a cliche, but if you look good, you feel good, you do good. So pampering yourself, like doing your hair, doing a hair mask, a facial mask, getting my eyebrows down, whatever it might be for you, doing my makeup, not doing my makeup, like anything, basically that makes you feel good about you and yourself. And then you're, you know, I strive to become more spirituality person, and, you know, meditate, pray, you know, have a moment of my day of where I'm just like in my mind and going through certain things. I think being grateful and having a gratitude attitude, it's huge. It was definitely a life-changing for me, and you know, realizing of the things that I do have, that I already have, and not needing anything else coming from external to validate those feelings. So that's huge too. And like I said, what might work for me might not work for you, and vice versa. So I think for everybody is different, and everybody should find what works for them. But definitely having that time, and also constantly plugging into positive input, like whatever that might be in the situation, a podcast, a mentor, or a coach, whatever it is that you're looking for to get some clarity on, because we all have our wonders and we all have our things, and we all should be trying to improve something. So that definitely has helped me a lot.
And I think all of that, like self-care and mental health, is specifically important for everyone. But like you said, we do have a big impact on other people. And and like I've noticed, like when I am feeling good, I notice that like the positivity or the energy that I spread around is kind of like contagious, I guess you could say. And I could see that when I'm happy, like I could sense the other people around me have better moods, or they generally are happier, or sometimes, like, I guess when people are feeling better, they also feel more connected. And I think that's another aspect of it too. Like I think self-care and then improving your mental health through like the things that you said is important, in terms of like acknowledging that like we all have our like areas of improvement that we can work on. And especially like for myself, I've been trying to really connect to my like divine feminine. I created like a vision board to like,
I have a vision board
yeah,
too.
it's really good, right? Yeah, and I try to like look at that vision board, and I have like this one girl that just kind of like has a flower in her hand, and I have like divine feminine written under it, because we need to like embrace our femininity, and that doesn't have to be a specific way, because it looks different for everyone. I truly believe that it does. But divine feminine is just like in its core, like connecting to who you are, right? And
to your emotions,
yeah,
to everything. And I felt like that's huge, because also it comes to a play in society and a role, right? And talking about the male gender and how I felt like, right, they're marginalized when they're showing any female traits, like when they're being sensitive or when they're being vulnerable. They're less of a man, or they're something like, why is a female trait something negative? Like that's what I'm trying to, you know, grab my head around and make other people aware that it's not like that. It's not like that. It's really like you said, grasping your whole self and understanding, and you know, like we're very complex. We really are, but at the same time, I feel like we're very simple. Yes. You know, so
that's so true.
Yeah. So yes, definitely, it comes to play on both roles, because when you're independent and well, I feel like you can speak more about that, you know, being single and being a woman, and you know, like you take yourself out, you go do food shopping, and you go to the movies by yourself, or whatever it is, like you do it on your own. And you know, that's, you know, sort of like a masculine energy, like I don't need nobody, like I can do it all on my own. Keep going. Sorry. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna add, you know, that's an important point that you made, because I guess like I'm so used to it that I don't think about it, but it is masculine energy that I tap into when I'm being more independent, taking action and just taking initiative on things. And recently, like I've been doing things more by myself, but also like I think I work on both masculine and feminine. Sometimes it weighs more masculine than feminine, but that's why I try to balance it so much, because it's not just about one thing or the other. I think it's important to balance both, because everyone has both, like even like males,
right? And when there's an imbalance, that's when there's a problem. And
exactly,
I've talked to a lot of people. I like talking a lot.
Me too.
And I do try to tapping into the feminism, and you know, like really, like as I was saying, it also affects the males. It also affects guys. And I was talking to my friend, and he brought up to me like, oh, do you know that the highest rate of suicidal people are males? And I was like, wow, I had no idea. And these men are just close up. They're just like so compressed. They don't like let anything out, and they don't even process these things. And it's sad. It's really sad. And that's what I say, like it has to be a balance. And the fact that women are sort of shamed for having all those tools, that we're so in tune, and so like you know, we have a sense, we have a gut, and we really do. And a lot of people said like, oh, we're witches or whatever. It's like we're really in tune with our surroundings and ourselves. And we feel these things. And so there's nothing wrong with that. And I feel like the fact that some people lack of it try to put shame on you because you do. And so that's not right. That's definitely not right.
And I think you touch up on a few really good things, actually. Like males do have the highest, like statistically the highest rate of suicide. And you mentioned like they have a lot of compressed or just like emotions that they don't really like let out or talk about or even acknowledge themselves. It just goes unnoticed for a long time, and obviously that takes a toll on them, and that's why it's so important to balance out those two energies. And as I'll touch up on another point too, like as much as like women exist and men exist in the world, we also need each other. Like we need each other to balance each other's energies out. And I don't mean this in a way like, oh, like we need connections, and we need connections that can balance us out, if that makes sense. That's what
Absolutely.
I mean. And as much as like we need other women to connect with to share that feminine energy, we need men to like balance out our masculine energy. And at times like we may sometimes, like you said, I weigh on my like masculine energy more. Sometimes I get so like tired and overwhelmed and exhausted, and I guess it's because like I'm not in my genuine true nature, you know.
It can happen, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the same way, like I feel that a lot of women are also called out so many things because we are so emotional.
Yeah.
Not like emotional, but like in tune with those emotions, and we really do you know, feel them.
That's true.
So yeah, I think, and we really should be. We should really be ashamed of feeling what we're feeling and thinking how we're thinking. And that's when culture and religion comes into a huge play. You know, I feel, me personally, and I'm not gonna go into names or anything, but I do feel that around the world there's a lot of religions and cultures, like in Africa, like the tribes and all of this, and Asia, how women are so subjugated, and there's just like, is this or no way, and there's like no escape from that.
Yeah.
You know, and even from like other ways, like homosexual people and stuff, like is this path or no other path?
Yeah.
And we usually, women have a huge role in there. They have to obey, and they have to follow through, and they have to be content, and they have to let through and slide. And I'm just like, I'm not having it. I'm not.
I think you touch up on a lot of good points there too, because for me, I mean, maybe it's because I haven't been in like healthy conversations with these certain people, but
you can talk about this with many people.
And like you said, with people calling you too sensitive, or you're just like taking things so hard, or you're just being, I don't know, like anything.
Yeah, whatever they want to call you.
Yeah, and it to me, it's always like bothered me, because it's not even like, if I need to feel my emotions, like I'm gonna feel them regardless of what anybody thinks.
Right.
Even if you perceive like, and also that shows an unhealthy like pattern in your life too. Like if people don't want to acknowledge your emotions, and sometimes like for us, we are like, we pretty much, like you said, we have this gut instinct, we have this intuition, but we also have like this nature where like we can sense things out, we can predict, not even predict, but like almost like psychic like feelings like you get, right? And it, like, if I close off one part of my emotion, it also closes off another. So that's the same thing with men, like with the suicide rates you mentioned too, and like our culture and religions are impacted by all of this. Like we have these structures in society and culture and religion, whatever, that not just for us as women that like closes us off from our emotions, but it also does it for other people. It's like the world is like, even like, look at the US culture specifically. Like I'm not going to go into detail about like the economy and stuff, but I think maybe this is my perception, so it might not be true, but with capitalism, it does drive a lot of people to take on more masculine energy, because you have to take initiative, you have to build something, you have to create, right? Like you have to like take action on certain things. And I think like that impacts us a lot too, like the structures, and I'm not just talking about economy, but just like structures in the world and society in general that really impact us not expressing our emotions. And I think it impacts our femininity. It impacts, that's why I feel like a lot of religions, a lot of cultures are falling apart now. Like they really are. Like so many people are exposing like unhealthy things that are happening in their own culture, in their own religion, in their own families, like even smaller structures. Like it's just happening all around the world. And I guess maybe that goes to show that we really are not benefiting from this, all of us as people. And and like that's why, as much as yes, like there's a lot of emotion that may not be, it's not that no emotion is unhealthy. I don't think that. I think every emotion is healthy, but I think it's how you express it, and
Right,
it's how you go about it
100%.
and how you handle it. I think that's the most important thing. So at the end of the day, it's good to recognize our emotions regardless of what anybody says, what
Correct.
society tells us. But it's so hard to do when it's so ingrained in all of us that like we have to follow the structure, we have to be this way. And when we do speak up, when we do express our emotion, when we do anything, people just tell us, oh, we're too sensitive, or we're too like, we're being too much, like we can't be, we have to handle our emotions. It's like, you can cry, like it's okay, you know? Nobody
Right.
tells us that though. Everyone just, like I'll give an example. Like I grew up, I mean, obviously like I'm a female, but you hear a lot of like men being raised as like, you're a boy, like you can't cry, you, like it's funny, like I experienced that as a female, you know? Like I feel like that's why like as a like, you know, adult now, it's hard for me to express emotion and be open because I was raised in a way that made me like not want to express my emotions.
Wow, yeah, and
And-
that definitely has
Yeah.
a huge impact on you
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's why it's
and-
taking so long. And I'll say this one last thing, and then I'll give you can also add. That's why it's like so hard sometimes for me to connect to my feminine energy, and that's why I try to consciously do that.
But it's just so hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to try to like tap into that
Yeah.
because first of all, women are so overly sexualized.
Yep.
And like everywhere, no matter where, what or how, we just are. And it's annoying. It's very annoying and frustrating. And I'm sure a lot of women can understand this. How anything that we do is always viewed some way sexual. And so that also comes into play with other relationships with other females, you
Yeah.
know, and how, you know, if you're heterosexual for the most part, you will be seeking male attention.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it can go both ways where like males think like, oh, everything they do is just to get my attention. And also the other way where, oh, she's doing that to get his attention or type of thing. So either that or they, you know, they think that, oh, whatever you're doing, whatever you're dressing or saying or doing, whatever, you're trying to get somebody else's attention. So that reflects on their other women's insecurity. And that's going back to the first point, how we started talking about in this podcast is about women's mental health and how important I believe it is and how we should really take care of more of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I came to the U.S. about 8 years ago, and it was definitely culture shocking, for sure. But also seeing, you know, living in the U.S. and what the TV shows or the magazine shows, what this has been endorsed and like this has been sponsored or this and that. So as I was saying, women are extremely sexualized. So when you don't look like or you don't feel like certain images, certain double standards that we have currently in our society, you feel shit. You feel very poorly about yourself, and that's when, you know, I put you down instead of uplifting you. I judge you before knowing you, and it just makes hell for both people.
Yeah. Insecurity, I think I mean, I said this many times before in the podcast, but you touch up on a lot of good points here as well as earlier too, because insecurity, just like other things that we feel, is contagious. So like you said, if you make one person, one woman insecure, it kind of like reflects. And like you were talking about it before, like women pick up on other people's emotions, especially other women.
Yep.
And so like when you have that impact where you make one person feel insecure about themselves, that can be projected onto other women, and it can just become the cycle of insecurity and envy and jealousy in just society in general. And also like I think with the US culture, I mean, I'm also not from the US, obviously. I came here when I was younger, when I was 10, but it was a culture shock back then, and I think there are certain things that I got used to, but there are a lot of things that I'm just still like
Right, like not.
yeah, I question. I'm like, how does this work, or why is it this way? Because I don't think a lot of the things here I look at, like certain things in society, and then like how the roles that we play are just so. I feel like it's messed up. Like
Really?
it truly is.
When you look at it,
And like I'm not saying it's easier anywhere else,
No.
but like acknowledging and understanding that what we
we're
have
here. This is where we are. This is what we're dealing with.
It's our own
So,
experience, and yeah, exactly. And I'm just referring to like what I've known, what I've experienced, and like yes, you have a lot more opportunity, but also there are a lot, like you have to work hard, and also that can take a toll on your mental health too, because
Absolutely.
like how hard can you work, how hard can you push
How
yourself,
much can you exhaust yourself
Like-
before breaking point?
and there are different aspects of it too. Like I can't work myself physically to a point, like I've injured myself working before,
I have too.
and it's like I don't think we should be worked that to that extent to just survive.
Not at all.
And even emotionally or like mentally, it takes a toll, not just physically. Let's say like right now I work in a more office environment, right? But even then, like that doesn't take a toll on my physical health as much, but I would say like emotionally and psychologically, mentally, whatever, it really just wrecks me sometimes. I like at the end of the day, I'm so exhausted, not just talking with people, but just the environment that there
Overall,
is.
yeah.
And it's what society has created, and we have to, it's like, we have no choice but to live in it almost. Like that no one has really given us the opportunity to like choose or change it. And even if we wanted to change it, we may not even see the fruits of our own labor. It may be generations to come. I really think about that sometimes. Like I started my own mental health journey and like healing journey 5 years ago, but there are some times that certain things happen and I'm like step back, I'm like take 10 steps back, and then I go like 3 steps forward. So like there is no like guideline to it either. So you kind of have to figure out what really works for you. And for example, another thing with mental health, I've been to a bunch of therapists, maybe like a handful, like 4 or 5 of them.
Same.
In the past 5 years. Only at times where I truly think I needed it, because for me, my experience hasn't been great either. I always wanted to go to like a female therapist because I thought I could relate better. And I have been to like multiple female therapists, and out of like 4 of them, I would say like 2 of them were decent. But even then,
Yeah, it's hard to find like the help that you
hard.
need.
yeah,
But also like touching point of that women in work environment. How is that?
Yeah.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
I feel like it's really hard, and talking from my personal experience, to find a work environment where I'm treated professional.
Yep.
You know, it's always trying to take advantage of you somewhere or another, or put you down. And it's really sad to say, but the few worst work environment experiences that I had, it was with female managers.
Yep.
That they would harass me to the bathroom, like where am I doing, where I was at.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
That's horrible.
it is.
Yeah.
Or other females where I've taught them even how to use Excel because they didn't know, like Word documents, printing out, making reports, and then having those same females fire me because I was giving them an attitude when I taught them where they knew.
Like you were training them.
Yeah.
You were
So,
engaging with them.
you know, it's definitely tough. It's definitely tough to deal with people in this mental state, and low key they put you in that mental state as well because they're projecting all of that to you. And if you start questioning yourself and believing those lies, so it's very like
You're like,
move,
no.
go somewhere else. Like
That's
your
pretty
mental
accurate.
health and your emotional health, it's everything. Because like I could get $1 million on a payroll, but if the work environment sucks and the people are extremely negative, and my boss or my coworkers this and that, like I'm not happy.
Yep.
Even if I'm getting like very well, paid for, I'm just not personally. That's just me. But the other way, if you're very comfortable, you feel value, you feel, important, you feel listened to in a work environment where they're also giving you tools to grow or learn or this and that, then you know that's much better. That's worth much more than the other job for me.
Yeah.
You know.
And you know, it's crazy that you mention this, because I've read online, like multiple platforms, how people talk about they like left a job that was paying so well, but it took a toll on their mental health so much that they get to a point where they can't handle it anymore. No. And I could see how that is like the case for a lot of people, and even for myself. Sometimes I'm just like questioning certain things, and it makes you question your own self. It makes you question your own abilities, talents, skills.
Oh, and on top of that, you're getting paid less than your male coworker.
You're like, I'm gonna be petty about this, but no.
It is, because for example, like I'm not so sure about any other ethnicities, but for example, like a male versus a white, like white male versus white female, there's still like a bridge of like 20-something% of difference on pay. From white male to a Latina woman, it's almost like 40% of
other
the
cultures.
Difference. And so it's like I'm doing all of this. I'm still getting paid less. I'm treating like shit, and then you still have to be nice and nurturing and like being so this and that, because as soon as you give them, you know, like a straight, plain attitude, they're like, there's something wrong with her. She's not being nice. She's being a little bit, you know. And it's like, I'm just answering how you approach me.
And I have so much to say about that.
I'm glad.
Because it's not just the workplace, but I realize like a lot of people, but in the workplace too, when you give people the same energy that they have been giving you for the longest time,
they don't like it.
Now it's like you're the bad person. People are so unaware of their own actions and like their own interactions with other people that like once you like do exactly what they do to you, then they're like unhappy. They're like, oh well, you did this to me. I guess I just like for a second I always like stop. I'm like it just boggles my mind. I'm like, why are you playing the victim all this time that you've been really just pushing me to my limits? And then when I react, when I say something, when I do give you an attitude, or just like acknowledge what you're doing to me, even if it's not an attitude, and I just acknowledge like you are doing this, and you know, that really just like hurts their ego, I guess. It happens 100%. A lot I would say it happens a lot in a lot of workplaces, especially like people who are I've worked in so many places that was the case. Like people higher up, like if they're your manager, or you know, even if they've trained you and like taught you certain things, people love to like micromanage and control, especially like people who are like higher up, managers and things like that.
Younger, female, immigrant.
There's so many aspects to it too, because I was actually reflecting on this recently as well. For me, like I guess if you look at it in the society, like I am in so many of the minority like sections of society. Like I'm an immigrant, like different religion, obviously, woman, female, maybe like add more things. Like sometimes like I grew up also with a lot of like trauma, financial instability, I guess you could say. I think those kind of set you back in life, and kind of like takes you like 10 steps back while people are starting. Think of like on a track, like people are like gonna race, right? And 10 people start here, and then like there's 5 people that start there. You either have to really push yourself to, and that's another reason why our mental health is affected so much, because you're starting 5 steps back, right? And people are already here. They don't have to try as hard as you to get to
an even
the
point.
end. Yeah, but you have to run like another 50 meters or whatever. Like I'm not good with track,
I know.
But like you have to run. You have to work extra hard. You have to work on your endurance. You have to work on your mental health. You have to work on so many of these things in order to get to like
I feel like it started in a fair point. I know what you're saying. But then that's when, for me at least, that's when it clicks. And for any immigrant person that's listening out there, you know, that's when you have to choose your perspective. And I choose to view it in a way that fills me. And you know, for a long time, I may admit that it felt like a burden. It felt like something in my shoulders. It felt very heavy. But now I take that as a fuel. And you know, seeing I had both my parents. I do think I was extremely, and I'm still extremely lucky that I have them both nice and healthy, for sure. But they're both hustling like really hard to give me certain type of life, you know. And after seeing that, that definitely fills me up to do even more. You know, I don't try to put that in like pity, like, oh my god, like poor me, woohoo. I approach that now after years of maturity. I'm not that old, but I've gone through some stuff, and definitely it helps me view that as like I need to do better. Like I want to give back. I want to, you know, like they hustle so much. I know I'm not average. I know I'm not gonna live an average life. So even though you have so many things pushing you down and trying to make you feel bad about yourself and that you're not good enough and this and this and that, you are good enough. You are meant to do great things, and you're meant to do and fulfill all those dreams that you always had. Just because people try to knock some sense of to you doesn't mean they were doing you the best. And so definitely, like, something that I do want to emphasize is mental health, and how especially like other women, I love to connect with other women, and especially I feel like you and I have a lot in common for you know, obvious reasons, but definitely trying to support you, because that's, I don't know, that's just me. Like I really do want to grow and see other people doing good, because then that will just inspire me to do even better things.
And I think I love that you say that, because I think that's a really good like kind of message to give to anyone, really, because for me it's always been like that too. Like I've learned to use my weaknesses as my strengths.
You have to.
And
you have to.
It's I guess it's also like helped me persevere in some ways. I mean, it still bothers me certain things, but I don't like you said, I don't sit down and be like woohoo me, like poor me. Obviously it is what it is. I can't change it. So like, what do you have to do in order to be where other people are, in order to have a comfortable life? I have to like use what I have and make the most of what I have, and acknowledging that certain things are the way they are, and using those as like fuel. Like you said, you're using that as your base. Like, this is my background. And even sometimes, like, I build, like you said, you and I kind of have a similar background with like being immigrants and kind of coming here. I mean, you came here later than I did, but still, it's similar, different experiences, but similar.
Culture shocking.
And it like helps me build community. Like I've noticed 100%. That it helps me build and relate to other people. It helps me build relationships with people that want to give back. And I think that's really, really important, because I feel like I'm at that point in my life where I'm recognizing that I obviously want to live my life for myself, but I don't want to live my life just for myself. I want to give back to other people. I want other people to have the life that I have. And you know, I can only do so much, which is another aspect of it. I can only encourage people so much. Like, people have to take their own action, decide that that's what they want for themselves. But for me, it's definitely given me, I guess you could say, a purpose, maybe.
An empowerment.
Yeah. It makes me feel more connected with certain people. Not everyone, but certain people.
For sure, not everyone.
And it's helped me like acknowledge my own shortcomings and what I can work on, what I can improve. And also, you have to recognize that you can't be the best at everything, you know. Choosing your battles, just accepting what is, accepting reality, and working with what you have. And yeah, I try really hard to also take care of my mental health with like the stress that I get with like so many things happening in my life. I think it's so important to like give, but also fill your own cup while you're giving, because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
So,
you hit a really valid point.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely. You have to, you know, do what feels good at heart. And like you said, you have to fill up your own cup, whether with training, like, you know, like exercising or meditating, yoga, journaling, singing, dancing, swimming, whatever, whatever it might be. You really do have to find what is that is your thing, you know. And the thing is that if you're happy, you're not gonna bother other people. If you're happy, you're not going to make feel other people miserable. You don't need to put other people down, belittle other people, because you're good. You're working on you. You have certain things, certain standards, certain goals to achieve. So you're not looking if the grass is greener over there. You're too busy watering your own grass.
That's
for sure.
So true. It's facts.
So, you know, that's also, you know, the thing that you have to tune in with those people. You know, you can show somebody or try to show somebody where they're wrong, or this is bothering me, or this hurt me, or whatever the situation might be. But at the end of the day, like, if they don't, you know, want to learn from those mistakes, you have to keep on going on your journey. Yeah,
that's so true. And I forgot what I was gonna add, but it was something that you said, and I said facts, but I don't remember.
Watering my own grass.
Yes, yeah, I actually was thinking about that recently. Like, when I've said this before too, and I don't know if I've heard it somewhere else, but it kind of clicked, like a light bulb went off in my mind when you said that. When people, regardless of who you are, regardless of where you are, where you're from, if you start working on yourself, regardless of what other people say, like, block everything out, work on yourself, work in areas that you need to improve in, whether that's fitness, whether that's eating healthier,
faith, work,
yes,
financial,
all aspects of life, and like how you play a role in the world is like impacted by that. Like, if you conquer your own self, your own mind, and learn to not control like in a bad way, but like learn
have
to
control
of
your own life.
Yes, and consciously make decisions to go in a specific direction. Like, it doesn't matter what challenge happens in your life, it doesn't matter who tries to stop you, who tells you whatever, you're gonna persevere. Because I've noticed that for me, that's been the case. Whenever I focus on myself and I just block out, I don't even do it on purpose, I think it just happens naturally. But whenever I recognize that, like, okay, I need to focus on this area because I know I'm not doing well in this area, like maybe recently meditating more and going to the gym more and just being outside more. I've definitely needed all those things. And whenever I do those things, I feel so fulfilled. And like you said, I don't turn around and look at, like, why is that person happier? Or because I'll be honest, like, when I'm unhappy, when I'm like really down on myself sometimes, like, social media doesn't help, but like I'll just see like people post things, and then I realize I just tell myself, I'm like, well, you know, people only post about the really good things in their life, and I do myself. So you can't take someone else's happy moments and just be down on yourself. And also, like, why compare? That person's life is like
comparison is the worst.
Yeah.
A huge game changer for me was to realize that for example, like, I can't compare my chapter 20 to your 57th chapter. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can be the same age or live in the same city, but we have completely different journeys.
That's
and
so true.
You know, everybody will realize eventually, hopefully, right, of their own stuff, but is you versus you. And when I realized that was huge for me, because, like, I'm unique. Like, there's not other person with the same DNA, with the same skills or same personality, or even physics. Like, it's just me. And I feel like that's something like huge that maybe we touch base on another time about, you know, how we view ourselves physically, because we do have to tap in more into the energy, and because we're energy beings, right? And you can read vibes from people. That's really real. But also your body, and like we were talking about, social media definitely doesn't help about the double standards that there's about women and what we're supposed to look like, or what's classified as pretty or not pretty, or
Yeah.
sexy or not sexy, and so you have to figure it out your own things. And
yeah, and like you said, we can definitely do another episode someday. And like you mentioned, energy, and I'll touch up on it very briefly, but I've also thought about, like, you're right, like nobody has the DNA and the body and the physic and the mind and whatever else, and like that makes you. Like no one has that experience other than yourself. And some, like I've even done meditations on like connecting with your ancestral like energy.
Great.
You know, because that's your DNA.
The series I was telling you about.
What is it?
The Afterlife. No, the Another Self. I'm sorry, the Another Self series on Netflix.
Okay, I'll watch it.
Yeah,
I'll watch
very
it.
good.
And
very good.
for if you want to tell everyone too, but it's
it's a
like,
very good series. Good recommendation.
Yeah, and I'm gonna start watching that, so I'll let you know how that goes. But do you want to just like start wrapping up, because I think it's been a really good like in-depth talk.
I mean, we talk about a lot of things. We definitely did. Yeah.
Yeah. Any like last messages or just anything that you want to say to like maybe empower other women and kind of give encouragement?
Yeah, I feel that, again, it might sound very cliche, but if you don't love yourself, like truly, you can't be with anybody else. You can't love anybody else, and you can even be your mom, your sister, your grandma, your uncle. Like it doesn't really matter who and what is, because there's just like, there also like raises another question that I'm still like trying to figure it out, how easy it is for us to love somebody else so deeply and so like head to toe, no like questions asked.
Yeah.
But then when they put the mirror on us, we're like, not so sure about that. Yes, but right?
Yeah.
And so that will be, if I can leave off with anything, is why is it so easy for you, like it's for everybody, to love somebody else so deeply and so deeply,
like
but you can unconditionally, with all the men of the world, but you can't do that for yourself.
That is a really good question.
Yeah. We really do have to work more on ourselves, and I think it doesn't really matter, like you said, culture, religion, age, gender. Like I feel like you really do have to figure yourself out, and just love yourself.
Yeah.
Because then that you'll be able to give out good and healthy love.
Yeah. And I'll also leave with one last message. And this is something that I was asked before by, like, I guess you could say like a mentor group we were in. And this one girl who was just starting out asked me how I came to where I am in my profession as a woman. And I paused on that question because I was like, I've never thought of that before. But I kind of
Isn't it great when somebody asks you something that you've never asked yourself about?
Yeah. But it's funny because I never even thought about it. Because in that moment, I was in my head, I was thinking, and I said this out loud to her too. I was like, if you are in a room full of people, regardless of what gender, what status, whatever, like culture, financial status they're in, if you're there, you deserve to be there. So like it doesn't matter if you're a woman or not, or whatever else you put in place of woman, just like swap it for anything else in your life. Wherever you feel like you're weak in, don't do that to yourself, because you're putting yourself down, and it kind of refers back to the question that you asked at the end.
You start to gaslighting yourself.
Yeah. And it's important to know that when you're in a room, when you're in a specific place, an environment around people, don't ever think you're less because of anything that you are, whether that's you because you're a woman or not. So if you're there, you deserve to be there, and acknowledge your skills, acknowledge your talents, acknowledge your experiences, embrace it, and show up as yourself. And if people don't like that, then that's their loss. So I'll leave it with that. But
hey.
Yeah. Also, earlier I realized that we didn't give Valen an opportunity to do an intro for herself, so if you want to do an intro.
Yeah, so my full name is Valentina Herrera, for friends on Valen. So I was actually born in Colombia, and then I moved to Spain, so I grew up there for a few years, and then I moved here to New York. I've always been living in Long Island. So I finished high school here, I also went to college, and now I currently have my own business. I'm a financial coach, and I also work in an accounting firm, so I'm getting myself, you know, involved with the IRS and all that good stuff. So yes, that's where I'm up to. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for doing the intro, by the way, and I guess we'll also kind of do an exit at this point, because I wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, because, you know, I want people to know where you are, and I'll link your Instagram if you want at the bottom of the channel in the description for the video. But I just want to say thank you for tuning in, everyone. If you're watching from YouTube, thanks for watching the video. Please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment on the video. Any thoughts that you might have about the topic that we talked about. And if you're watching from, or not watching, but listening from Spotify, thank you for tuning in, and please subscribe there as well. And I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Testing, how we doing? Oh, look at the sun.
And then I'll say my name is Buse, and you'll say whatever your name is.
Whatever your name is.
Whatever you want to say, Valen, Valentina, whatever it is.